Hey YouTube, it's Mr.iceshard here, and my co-host Emperor Cusco, and welcome back to the console room, the room in the house where you talk about anything and everything. And we're back this week with another episode of our jump reviews, checking out My Hero, JuJutsu Kaisen, Kaiju number 8, and Chainsaw Man once again. And due to this schedule release, we're technically behind Kaiju number 8, but it's such an odd schedule how it comes out. It's not every Sunday officially. It comes out usually a day before. But we'll probably have it replaced with a monthly series when it's off. And I just want to say thank you for all the views and comment. Just keep sharing, keep liking. It's a great help. Like I said, just play it in the background if you like. It's perfectly fine. Thank you for listening again, and I hope you stick with us. Other than that, enjoy the review. So, My Hero Academia, chapter 290. Still crazy. Dobby's dance. You say Dobby or Dabby?
Dobby.
Yeah, no, it's Dobby.
It could be Dobby.
No, I say Dobby.
Dobby.
Yeah, I say Dobby.
I don't know. It's actually called Dobby's Dance. That's really funny. I didn't catch that in the original, in my original read-through. That's actually very interesting. I mean, to be honest, if I'm being completely blunt, I think the dance is probably the lamest part of the. Lame's not the appropriate word. I feel the dance actually undermines the whole reveal personally.
I disagree.
I don't see the impact from it. This is something that's supposed. Okay, well, I guess rehash. Let's go back a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh my God! It's finally out in the open. The entire community has been hypothesizing this for literally, over the last, I guess, what?
Obito's Toby?
3 years, even longer. I don't even know.
Obito's Toby? Oh my God! I didn't know that.
Right. Well, same idea, right?
Yeah.
Ever since the flames were introduced, everybody since day one has been like, "Oh, Dobby has to be related to the Has to be the case.
Endeavor.
Has to be the case." And we've all been hypothesizing, and the thought's been there, but we weren't really sure how it got there. And then finally, in 290, he reveals himself to be Toya, the presumably dead brother that Deku also saw when he was visiting the Todoroki household. So yeah, I guess circling back to how I was originally starting with this, yeah, man, I really, like, the most shocking part of this entire chapter was the hair color. That's what the most shocking part of this entire chapter was.
Is the revelation is like, oh, it's him.
The dance was, in my opinion, very undermining to the whole reveal. And again, yeah, just the most shocking part about this whole chapter was actually the white hair. That was the part that I got thrown off.
I disagree because, like, I think the dancing is kind of like, I don't know, it mimics, it's funny because when I saw it, I'm like, oh, is that a reference to the Joker movie? And then I saw an article from typical comic book clickbait site. It's a reference to the Joker. I'm like, I guess so, maybe. I mean, because, that whole dance scene in the Joker is like, him going, he finally,
down
like,
the stairs.
Yeah, he finally ascended to madness, I guess.
Sorry, I was just thinking of that meme. All I have are negative thoughts. Anyways, yeah, well, I could see, admittedly, I actually still have yet to watch The Joker. I haven't gotten around to it. That's something I have to do, but
oh, wow.
The iconic scene.
Yeah.
I don't know, man, but it's not for me. Okay, you can't use that here, I feel, because the character level in terms of depravity and insaneness and all of the types of negativity, it's not the same. Really isn't.
I think it is because, like, I mean, he sent the video to his mom and, like, hey, like, this is what I did, and it's just a stark contrast of, like, this is what I did. I killed so many people, this and that, and, like, he's just, like, talking to his dad and his little brother, whereas, like, yo, you can't escape your past, and like, Endeavor, you did this to me, like. I mean, look at his body, man. It's like I'm pretty sure his brain is.
It's all messed up.
Yeah, so his brain. I mean, I'm pretty sure his brain ain't the same either. He's like that, like scarred him, like literally and physically, whatever he went through. So I think I don't know. It kind of makes sense. Like, I mean, not make sense that he's dancing, but like for the character to do that, and I don't want to say it's out of nowhere, but like, yeah, he's like, I'm doing it. I'm. See, Dad, you finally made it to number 1 and stuff like that, and so he's gonna get his revenge and stuff like that. So I like obviously yeah, I agree. Like the whole community is like oh, finally, like, yeah, but like, I was hoping it was a little bit different, but it's okay. See, I don't mind the reveal because the reveal was pretty good, and like, oh, like, it's satisfying enough, and it wasn't like, not that it was jarring or anything like that, but it was like, it like we finally hit the mark. Like, yes, we like, we all been theorizing and stuff like that, but like, I think the reveal is pretty great for the character, like this and that, and especially in this arc, it's kind of like I'm actually. Well, I don't want to say surprising because the previous arc was, remember, the training arc with Endeavor, and also before that, Endeavor versus the high end.
Nomu, yeah.
Yes, so like it makes sense that progress. And the first time we met, the first time we met Dabi again, like people like, oh, I call myself Dabi these days. So I'm like, all right, well, that's weird. But go ahead, you were gonna.
Well, but that's the thing, though, is, okay, I don't disagree with what you're saying in terms of the training arc, but I still find it very undermining because, this is the number one hero's son that he quite apparently literally broke to the point that, everybody thought this guy was dead. Endeavor actually Endeavor's push to be a better father, partially comes during that confrontation of himself in that picture with like Toya, right? Like we see that in the previous very brief training arc. He sits there and he has that self monologue where he's kind of critiquing himself due to Toya because he couldn't save him and all these types of things. Yet we're kind of getting, I guess, the opposite side of the coin here, where it turns out Endeavor was obviously to blame.
Well, Endeavor is, well, I think that's valid because like when we met Endeavor, or when Todoroki, when we first like met him, like, yeah, my dad only, he wanted to make the perfect hero or like breed, I guess, because that's why he have so many, like, what he has, like 3 other kids, right? Some has ice.
Show you, like, it sounds brutal, but yeah.
Which is a thing in the earlier chapters when they mentioned it, which is like, he wanted to create the ultimate hero, like the ultimate power. So like, now he's like, and he's still learning to be better, as a person, because he is the number one hero. And the confusing, I don't want to say confusing, because I want to say, let me see, page like 12, 13. You see that Natsu kid, who was like, I think it's the Natsu kid who was like a fan of Endeavor, like, he saved me or whatever, or he's fighting for. I think it's him, but I call him the Natsu kid because he had like the pink hair and like I think the scarf and shit. I think that was a reference. Is Dabi or Toya like broadcasting this everywhere? Like, I'm kind of confused.
Yeah, he says that in the chapter. He said I'm broadcasting my history right
now. So this is gonna be kind of like another dramatic change for the hero. Like, how we said in the previous, where like, man, the hero society is gonna like change dramatically.
I'm not arguing with that. I still think what I'm trying to kind of come back to an extent is this idea that I feel the positioning of this reveal is a little off for me, because there's so much other stuff going. Maybe it's not. I'm sitting here actually and I'm having a bit of an epiphany. Maybe it's not, because I guess for this particular arc, the main theme seems to be consequences. And what are the consequences of actions, and choosing how you want to live.
Yeah.
We're seeing.
That's a good.
We're seeing like that in all of these main characters.
And also with
the Uravity Toga thing.
Hawks.
You've got Hawks, exactly, and then you've got the whole, of course, all for one and one for all thing. And then now you've got this. So, you know what? I just kind of shot my own argument in the foot, but I'm going to stick with that. Maybe. Okay, the dance still gets me, but I'm appreciating the positioning actually a little bit more now, because it has been an arc of everybody's confronting consequences of their previous actions, and that kind of seems to fit more of that theme when we're sitting here and going back and forth with ideas. So, you know what? I'm more okay with it than when we started talking about it. I still think the dance is kind of but overall, I can appreciate it a little bit more when I see it in the bigger picture.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely get where you're coming from with the dance. It's kind of like, well, this is kind of weird and random. Like, first time reading, like, you're reading this whole huge arc that's happening right now, and then you get this, and like, oh, that's kind of weird. So I do understand.
It was a little bit. It was a little jarring. I know what you mean as well, because you came into that first. I was so confused. I honestly, for the first page, I like flipped back and forth like 3 times. I'm like, wait, what? And then I'm like, oh, it's a hospital where Todoroki's mom is.
Well, it says it on top, man. Learn to read.
Well, bro, I was reading it like, I don't even remember, and I tend to blitz through the first time around, so I had to go back. I'm like, wait. And then it's like, okay, he's broadcasting everywhere. You've got that kind of thing. That part threw me off, and I guess one thing I've been kind of impressed by is the pacing of this arc and the way everything's kind of getting drawn in, I guess, at the correct moments. Because this was actually, I guess, kind of the perfect time to do it, really, with just before the end of the battle, and you're like, oh, we're going to add more drama and more tension. It's kind of funny, because we were talking on last week's how, we had already kind of hit the climax, and we were kind of coming down, but I feel this kind of puts it back up again and starts heading towards like a secondary climax, because that is going to be like a Todoroki all-out brawl. Like, it's going to be the prodigal son and I can't think of
the cursed child. I don't know. The term for the father, or the
like the absentee father,
the cursed child.
Like whatever. Sorry, endeavors because of all these different things. He's had machinations to create Shoto. He's been driven and absolutely obsessed with the title of the #1 hero. So he's got his own issues. So you've got like the prodigal son that he always wanted, that kind of shuns him and doesn't like him because of the treatment of his family, and that being Shoto, and then now you've got the son who is presumed dead, who's like coming back for revenge. So are we finally gonna see the reconciliation between father and son? Is that kind of what this is all supposed to be leading up to?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's gonna happen in this arc. Cause
well, okay, here, let me just throw a question at you. Continue with that thought, but then also tie in, will Dabi go good? There you go. Let's just phrase it like that.
Oh, man. No, I don't. I can't see his character going good. I can't see him maybe again. I don't know if the circumstances down the line, whatever arc is gonna happen. This time they need to save All Might again. I don't know. Who's to say? But I don't think so. I don't think he's gonna allow his Dabi or Toya to do that, because the reveal of what he done. I don't think he has the retribution to
Or the ability.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if he eventually faces Shoto, Toya and Dabi, which I think will be an inevitable fight, he would want Shoto to kill him, just probably like his dad would have. You know what I mean?
You don't think that's this fight? I think that's this fight. You don't think that's this fight?
I don't think so. I think that's too soon to call, because they're trying to escape.
Do you think there's gonna be another one with just Dabi and with just Shoto?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Probably the next arcs down the line, because right now they're trying to escape. The villains are just trying to get that out of here. If you see the previous pages, Big Man over here has picked up Shigaraki after he got attacked.
I did catch that, but that's the thing is I'm wondering, because I guess my thing is there's so many threads that kind of need to get cleaned up right now that I don't know how everything's gonna. I mean, obviously some things are going to have to take a backseat, but what's going to have to take a backseat? Is this going to be something that's going to take a backseat? This revelation? Because, Shigaraki's obviously going to get away. There's no question of that at this point. This isn't that.
Or he might not. I mean, we'll see. I mean,
no, 100%.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm kind of thinking that this is the fight, because I'm thinking Dabi is going to end up being kind of like a sacrificial pawn here, where he's going to try and close out his, I guess, reveal, while Shigaraki kind of escapes. That's where my head's kind of at. I don't think it's going to be, that's plan A, and, that's what they've been aiming for this whole time. I don't think that's the situation. But I think that's kind of what's just kind of come up as a result of everything else that's going on.
Yeah. I could definitely, that's a good point. I mean, I like this chapter reading it through, so it's a good like revelation. I mean, I didn't see it coming in this arc at all, so it was kind of like
No,
okay.
I didn't either. It was definitely out of the blue. Like, it was out of left field for sure.
Yeah.
I still think we need to get a little bit more insight into exactly the event, because
That was
what's kind of
small.
being left.
That was a really small point when they were training and they were at his house. Like I was like,
Yeah, I
oh,
was just like, oh, I couldn't save him, and I'm like, okay, but like from what? And then when you look at this, it doesn't even, it still doesn't really hit on it.
yeah.
I
So
don't know. It literally just says I was a failed creation. It didn't take long for him to reject me. I was tossed aside and forgotten. The murderous flames of mine are Endeavor's flames. Like, okay, but what actually happened? Because, you know, to be honest,
maybe a
I'm
villain.
feeling this is going to be very anticlimactic.
I mean,
He's not willing to reveal it right now.
I mean, it could be very simple where like a hero got to him and then Endeavor couldn't.
Or you mean?
You know, it could be.
I was thinking, or a different hero came to save him instead of his dad, because his dad like couldn't be bothered. His dad was like, "Oh, you should have saved yourself. You're my son," kind of thing.
Oh, it could be that too. It could be a lot of things. Like, it could definitely be something simple and like like oh damn, that's kind of messed up Endeavor. Because again, he's not the best dad. I mean,
no, he's not. Well, I think to be honest though, I think
he's trying right now.
he is, and I think to be honest, as weird as it sounds, I think the emotion that you're seeing in his panels and in his illustrations is the highlight of that. Because if you look at, for example, on page 12 in the bottom right,
yeah, no, I'm looking at that.
He's stricken. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's sitting there, and that's a face of a guy who's like, "Oh, what the hell did I do? Like, did I actually create this thing?" And then on the last page as well, when you've got the Shoto and Endeavor being juxtaposed on each half of the page, like again, this is a guy struggling with some inner conflict right now, and to be honest, that's some of the most emotions we've ever seen from Endeavor.
I mean, and this is also like they faced each other before too, like on that street. So to him to not even notice, you know what I mean? Like, oh, it was like.
Well, yeah, that's it too, right? I think that's part of it too, is it goes to show how blind he was. Because I mean, I don't know. I guess the facial, like, I don't know exactly. Like, are those supposed to be skin grafts gone wrong? Is that the idea of Dabi's like issue? Like, we don't quite understand what's with all the stitches. If it's like again, if it's a skin graft gone wrong or what it is.
I mean, it could be as simple as he got burned.
Well, yeah, no, that's where I'm going to with like the skin grafts. Like, did he get burned and then they were trying to reattach the skin, but maybe he chose to reattach like the burnt skin? I don't even know. It doesn't matter. My point still being, it seems like he's kind of blind to his own son, if you will. Like, he should have realized earlier. Is I guess basically what I'm saying. So there's a little bit more grievance there and frustration there, definitely on Toya's part and definitely on Endeavor's part, because you're sitting there thinking, well, how did you not realize that sooner? But for me, overall, I don't mind that, because personally, throughout the series, as we've seen more into Endeavor as a character, the more I've enjoyed the series. When he was just very one-dimensional and, oh, I'm the gruff number 2 hero, like, I didn't care for that. But when you find out about his familial issues and his inferiority complex in comparison to All Might,
yeah, I mean, he was hungry to get to the top, and even then, like if All Might was in his prime, I think a lot of stuff could have been avoided.
Oh, I agree. Like, this wouldn't be happening, and it's kind of interesting because he is being forced to take on a weight. Well, a kind of weight.
Yeah.
All Might was never really forced to hold, because All Might's existence in and of itself, it deterred crime, it deterred villains, like it did all of that. But with him, having that fight against All for One, it created this gap, and he's of course had to come in and fill that. And I think a really good nod to that is on page 8. And he just says, after all, I'm this nation's top hero, right? And it's just after he kind of knows. He's like, oof, I'm out of gas here. Like, I don't know what to do. And then he just like, oh, I'm our number 1 hero. I don't have a choice. There's that acknowledgement
Yeah,
which
because
only
if he
came from
falls,
being enlightened by All Might.
basically if he falls, the Hero Society falls because he's the number one. You know?
Well, exactly, right? And that's what I love. But I don't think Endeavor would have had this ability. I don't think Endeavor would have had this drive. Obviously, without the fight against the top tier Nomu. But I also think it comes from the conversations on the side with All Might. Because, for example, when Shoto has to go back and do the licensing exam with the wind guy from the other school,
Yep.
Him and All Might end up talking and stuff, right? And Endeavor actually ends up reaching out to All Might and opening up about a couple of things. And I think that conversation is kind of what we're seeing right here, where he understands a little bit of the difference between the two of them, where being the number one hero is kind of this idea of plus ultra. You have to go beyond. You can never be acceptable at what you are. It always has to be one step higher, because clearly, when your best isn't enough, which right now none of any of their bests are enough, you have to find that extra gear, right? It's like, you're that athlete in the playoffs. It's the last game. Everything's on the line. It doesn't matter how good you've been all season. You need to be even better than that right at this moment, because this is for all the marbles. And in the case of a hero, those marbles are people's lives, your entire society. So you got to take it to that next level every day. And I love to see Endeavor embracing that right here.
Yeah, it's definitely it's been a great arc for Endeavor for actually, I mean, even when he became number one, he had to face against high end Nomus, which was still pretty tough for him. So it's definitely a fun arc to watch, just him going through the emotions of we need to stop Trigger Rocket, we need to stop everything. And it's crazy because all the heroes are there essentially, right? And they're still, not that they're messing up.
Losing,
yeah,
to be honest.
Yeah, it's a tough.
It's definitely not a win. It really isn't.
I mean, people are hurt, and I'm pretty sure people died. So.
Oh yeah, well that's one of the things, right? Is it shows if you actually go to
in the beginning.
It's go to 13 and 12.
Yeah, you see the hand and people
just crushed by the rubble and
debris and stuff like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's definitely casualties. This definitely was not a clean operation like they were expecting it to be. Also, just speaking of, I guess, death in the series as a whole, I was kind of surprised to hear that Dabi had only killed 30 people. I'm not gonna lie. Sorry, only 30 people sounds bad. No person ever dying ever is a good thing. But my point still being, I'm not gonna lie. I was expecting at least a 50 kill count from this guy. I'm not gonna lie. At least with the way they kind of played into previous depictions of him being unstable, for lack of a better word.
Well,
I was really surprised.
I feel like if it's more than that, I think the authorities would have been like, man, there's a lot of burn people going on around these cities. So.
That's true too. I guess that would have been overly suspicious, but they had already kind of been on Dabi's trail a little bit, right? They knew. I don't know. It's a weird thing. I just thought 30 was kind of low given.
That's a weird.
The intensity of
That's
this
a weird
character.
I think 30 is still. I mean, it's 30 people.
Again, it's a lot, but I mean, if you look at how many Makia just killed, bro, he just killed 30 people with that arm swipe. That's more of my point.
I think 7,
that whole thing, dude. There's more than 30 people dead from that. And
there's no.
Tell me that this guy was an arsonist.
Bro, I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, there's no civilians there. It's all the heroes. So. Yeah, but if
but
he.
think about how many.
That's a whole building.
To run through to get there.
Well, some people got infected, but some people, they got wrecked for sure. I mean, we'll see the numbers by the end. So.
Well, you know what? That'd be kind of interesting. Maybe that's what we kind of need. I'd actually be interested to see if the author did that. If we get some sort of stats, heroes deceased, villains deceased, civilians, etc. I'd be interested to see.
I think we're definitely gonna see a news panel down the line where 50 100 injured, 50 dead, unfound bodies, heroes. The number 4th hero got Crust. The best hero name, and he died. I don't know if you remember.
That's a horrible name.
Yeah, it is pretty bad.
I think that would be good, because I think one thing that's always really important is context. is like, you could have all of these buildings destroyed, and it's like, okay, who cares? Because, there's no weight to a building being destroyed. Okay, yeah, some people are losing their homes, I get it, but, when you compare that to the amount of people who could be losing their lives in situations like this, and how many would, you gotta give some context, and I'd like to see that context.
Yeah. But but overall, pretty good chapter. I'm excited for the next one. I don't know. Again, I don't know what's gonna happen. I guess we'll have to wait and see and read.
Well, there'll be a fight of some kind, obviously. We're gonna Davi's kind of coming in at 100%. Endeavor's on. He's on some little licks of flame left. He's not got much. I don't think Shota's got a lot left in the tank either.
Well, we still got the other students, so hopefully I can think of something.
Oh, but I don't think Ida's got a chance against Dabi.
Nah.
To be honest, Nejire, I'm just kind of your power's kind of cool. But
I'm actually happy. I'm happy to see more of her again. So that was pretty cool.
It's all about the million. But yeah, we'll see what happens next week. And I think that's kind of all we need to go over. So
yeah, on to JuJutsu Kaisen.
What else we got? Chainsaw Man and then a Kaiju, right?
Yep.
Yeah, fine. Let's jump to JuJutsu then. To be honest, I think really excited to talk about this chapter because
really,
honestly, dude, I'm every week. This is it?
It's good action. It's really
I don't know how to pronounce the first name, so I'm not gonna pronounce the first name. But dude, on a weekly basis, dude, Akutami just blows my mind, man. I don't know what it is.
He does good action.
It's amazing to me how much this series has blown up with the release of the anime this year, and how much more attention it's getting. And I can't believe so many people, myself included, were sleeping on this. I definitely first read probably the first 15 to 20 chapters of JuJutsu last year, but I didn't really pick it up. And then I gave it another go this year.
Because you could finally
read it. There was
yeah.
going to be an anime, actually.
Yeah.
And boom, I was just like, wow, why didn't I go through this? It's just a great flipping series. And I just want to, I'm just going to start out with some shouts out right there because I just want to pump this up.
Going back to the anime, just a little quick thing. You know how it wasn't this episode, but the one before where you see I guess spoilers, Yuji dies, kind of.
In quotations, yeah.
I just find it I don't want. I probably want to do a small video on it, the whole theme of death and curses. But you notice how how Yuji told Megami live long. He told him something that wouldn't allow him to be a curse. And I never noticed that until I watched the anime. Obviously.
Interesting.
And I'm like, oh wow. I was like,
he kind of almost a parallel there between what Nanamin said to Midori or Yuji.
And the girl too was I was like, oh wow, this is kind of a great parallel. Even from the beginning, he was gonna he wasn't planning to not planning, but he thought of something to live long, say something to so he wouldn't curse. So I just found that really interesting, and I guess it very different from what his grandfather said, where it's go help people and stuff like that. And
it's kind of funny because then you mentioned that as well. We're going off on a bit of a side tangent here. We'll have to bring it back, but you saying that also made me think of when Yuji first meets the principal of their school, the guy with the glasses, whose name totally escapes me right now. He says to Yuji, he's like, "Oh, people always die with regrets, especially those of a jujutsu sorcerer. You have to know that you're going to come up to something and that you might have these regrets." And I think it's interesting because there's this idea with what you're pointing out and the Nanamin thing and the Kukasaki thing where you can die with regrets, but kind of don't you dare pass on those regrets to other people. Yeah. They've already got enough of a burden living on without you now, so don't make it worse than it is.
But it's funny because going back from the previous chapter with Toto, we have the burden to bear, but it's not in a negative way or a negative curse way. It's more we just gotta keep pushing on because it's basically an unwritten rule. It's a nod of your head.
You have to pick up their baggage, but you have to do so in a way that you don't. It doesn't add to your own. Oddly enough, I don't know how else to say that. I know that's kind of paradoxical or contradictory, but that's kind of what it is, right? Because even Yuji says like, "Oh, not I mean like, I'll carry your burden now too," basically. But I guess it's the fact that it's passed on positively.
Yeah.
And it's that person's acknowledgement of needing to carry on that burden. That's kind of the thing, as opposed to it being forced upon it. Anyways, we went off on a tangent.
But like, onto this chapter. I mean, just great action, man. This has been pretty cool. Like, just like Toto doing his, like his curse technique, and then this dude just like moving his body parts and like looking like a whole snail. It's just crazy. And then he uses soul manipulation to make like these new like I can't even pronounce it soul seismer or something like that.
Hold on, I gotta find the panel here. The polymorphic soul isomer. Yeah. So normally it's kind of funny because polymorphic isomers are actually things in is it chemistry? I'm pretty damn.
Oh, is it really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it is. But he threw in soul to like change it, to tweak it, to make it fit.
Yeah, of course. Because he could like manipulate his soul and everything.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the polymorphic soul isomer. Yeah, that was kind of cool. I caught that as well. Random question: did this, I guess, particular chapter, was the art, for lack of a better term, looser to you? Like, I felt if I had to say the lines and the drawing were very I felt like they've been more precise than a lot of other chapters. This one feels kind of almost like scratchy and loose in comparison.
See, I would disagree. It's a very like I think we predicted that either we're gonna get an action heavy chapter or something else in between. But this one was like a very action heavy, and like I understand where you're coming from, but I disagree because like I could see where everything like when you actually visually see everything. I mean, I could see maybe like on chapter like 6 and 7. Or I guess 6, with like when he switched with the poly, and then it's him, and then it's Yuji, and he slaps, on the top right. So that could be like a little.
Page 6 and 7. Sorry.
Yeah, like on the top right, and then like I could definitely understand that's confusing if you're not paying attention and you get it, because it is like okay, it's instant where you don't like see the visually like switching. You just see the placements of the next, like who switched who, what I mean? Like what did he do? Like, okay, he switched him with him, and then he switched himself with, it's kind of like that. So, I kind of see what I see what you mean, but I disagree. Like I see where the action is. I mean, like when he gets thrown into a department store, it's like holy shit, like that fucking splash page is like awesome. And
oh yeah, no, that's great. Yeah. Well, sorry, I don't really mean like I didn't mean looser in the sense of it's messy, but I think like for example, if you were to compare Mahito's face in the first panel of this chapter versus the last panel of the last chapter, for example.
Yeah, it's a little. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
it's very like it's stylistically, it's just very different. I feel like I could just be.
He could change. He could change his face. He could do that.
Well, I know he can. It's just interesting. I just found the art style to be a little different this week, and I couldn't tell you what it was. It just felt like the only way.
It's funny because like that first chapter very much reminds me of like you ever watching a TV show, or I mean, not first chapter, that first page where you're watching a TV show or like an anime, and then like it cuts to commercial right then and like right before he says like
and it comes back.
Yeah.
And it gives you that like 3-second recap.
Yeah. Like we just saw. Yeah. It's funny because like that's the exact words that happened last week. So they just like he's just
He's resetting the stage.
Yeah, of course.
You, like back into it. Yeah. I got you for sure.
I mean, I don't know if you ever saw the X-Men animated series where like.
Of course.
Oh, do you?
Where Wolverine never ever uses his claws.
No, but there was a part where like Bishop, from the future.
The future, yeah.
It was he comes and I think it was a hard cut, and then commercial break comes back, and then he yells for the future, and then he starts shooting.
Oh Lord.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's the 90s for you.
Yeah, of course. But like but it's funny because like I'm like, oh man, I wish it was something similar like that, or like, but it's basically like you said, it's resetting the stage and like not a rehash, but yeah, it was pretty cool, and it's kind of interesting that I didn't know his previous attack, even staying on the first page. His previous attack when he did the body repel thing with the multiple mouths, that created like a floor for them. So that was pretty.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either. Yeah, they're like almost standing on a web. It was really interesting. I didn't catch that either. And then and it's interesting because you can see more of it as the fight progresses.
Mm-hmm.
Man, man,
You're
honestly,
right. You're right.
some of these panels, it's just crazy because like the way it's tied into the fighting, you can see that it's there. He uses it well, even when he zooms out to that panel that you were talking about on 7, where it's like really zoomed out and you can see like all the swaps happening and stuff like that. Even right there, you can see like they're still on that floor and stuff like that. So I like the consistency of that because sometimes you'll read a series and then they're on a floor, but then they're on like a different floor, and you're like, wait, how did they get to that different floor? As opposed to this keeps it very concise.
Going back to the thing that they're standing on, it's actually kind of brutal. On a closer look, if you actually look through or like zoom past the pages.
Oh, you can see
the
like
eyes
skin and stuff.
And you see eyes, teeth, and it's like, it's kind of that's brutal.
It's creepy, right? Because they're literally fighting on like dead people's bodies.
Yeah, and like probably some of them are like alive.
Half alive. Oh god, yeah, absolutely. It's man. You know what's funny? JuJutsu is probably one of the, I don't want to say it's one of the weirder series I've read because like, stuff like Attack on Titan is arguably even more out there. But there's a really, I guess, subtle macabre kind of or like thing going on with the whole series with that type of stuff where you don't think about it, but it's always behind it. And that's like kind of what you're talking about, because like it's like, it's a fight scene, and then you're like, they're fighting on dead people.
Yeah,
but you don't
like
think about
the skin and body of like semi-alive and also a lot of dead.
Dead people. Yeah, like it's crazy, and there's just like this darkness that's always subtly hanging around Jiu-Jitsu. You get pulled into the action in a chapter like this, and you almost kind of forget about it.
I agree. We're like, oh man, like he took that hit, like this technique, but then like in the background, like he's like, oh man, and when you actually look at it, it's kind of like, oh, this is terrible. Like
It is, right? It's like even when you look at Toto gets like clipped into that that mall, right?
Yeah, the
like,
department
he's in,
store.
Like that store or whatever, because you can see like the mannequins and the clothing and all that flying in the background. So he bodies that thing, but then when Mahito goes to fight Yuji, even in that first panel where he's like, okay, it's time to pile it on, you can see like the teeth are coming out of that
blood. Oh yeah, no, I see it.
Like the human, and then same in the next one, and you're just like, right, like these are people. So there's always this weird darkness there that you kind of have to put it in the back of your mind while you're reading JuJutsu, because otherwise it's just like it's kind of nasty.
It is, but I mean, I guess we know people were gonna die anyway. Like, in that world, it's kind of messed up. There's curses that like could physically hurt you. So, especially in this arc where it's like, okay, I wasn't expecting this many people. People died in like previous arcs and stuff like that, but not into like this.
But the civilian casualties in this one was crazy.
It's massive.
Gojo got to the point where he stopped caring, right? He's just like, I have to minimize casualties because there's going to be some no matter what.
Yeah, and that's pretty. But that's pretty good callback. But going back to Toto fighting the first the polymorph one, they're basically a glass cannon. They get hit hard but not get hit, essentially.
I was kind of surprised by that, to be honest, because the burly nature of the design was making me think the exact opposite. Also, this is a bit of an odd compliment, but this is probably my favorite looking cursed enemy, or like,
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. It's kind of like, it's like not a sub boss, but he's like, he's a tough enemy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I also like the design because it's almost human, because like if you think back about, for example, the very first thing that like Yuji fights in that school, it's got like mouths all over the place and weird heads. Even the first special grade is kind of
weird, and like eyes
weird.
Like
it's weird. So this is one of the very few curses in the series so far where I've been like, okay, that's actually kind of cool. Yeah. And I find that fairly intimidating at the same time, and it's also kind of creepy. Because it was a nice blend as opposed to just...
No, I know what you mean, because they look physically, like, strong. Like, they like... Yes, yeah. And they like, man, they look like tough, enemies to fight. So, I definitely got that. And then when there was more appearing, I was like, oh, shit, like, nah. Like, time to get serious, you know what I mean?
Oh, I loved it. Well, you know what's also funny about this fight? So, in in the very first, I guess, video that we uploaded, slash the second, when we were kind of discussing Toto's domain expansion, we actually got a little bit of a hint to that right here.
You think so?
Yeah, well, no, sorry, not maybe a hint, but I guess we kind of had an option crossed off because we had been, theorizing that maybe he, do me a favor, dude. Pause for a second. I smell something burning.
Okay.
Right? Oh, you're checking me for a stroke? Okay, thank you. I was like, what the heck? Okay, my bad, bro. That tripped me out a little bit. Sorry.
Oh, good. But yeah, we were.
It's coming from outside. Okay, there we go. Okay, sorry. Minor false alarm. Thought the house was on fire. Okay, my bad. So.
Yep. You were talking about the his the domain expansion.
Yeah. So I guess we had one of the options kind of crossed off because we were talking about switching places with any type of object, and that's exactly what we saw here. He puts a little bit of cursed energy into the rock, throws the rock, and then switches places with the rock.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't think his domain expansion will be... I no longer, I guess, think his domain expansion will be, I guess, a more improved version of that. I think it'll be something a little more crazier. Maybe going back to that idea of dreams into reality kind of thing.
Could be that. It could definitely be out there. That could definitely be like a... I mean, again, I might just be stretching because he could switch things with anything. So maybe like you said, he could maybe switch dreams to reality. So, yeah.
There's so many things to be, seen still.
Yeah.
But oh man, sorry, I'm just looking through panels again. I'm like, oh man, this series is just.
Yeah, I mean, it's just dope action. I mean, Yuji dodging his there's
all those pronged attacks, he's in the
well,
middle of them
that's
all.
funny because that's the previous attack, but now it's spikes. So yeah, so we see
more for me to get stabbed from.
Yeah,
awesome.
because before he did it it was just one mouth thing, and then he did it multiple, and now they have spikes on. So it's a cool little nice evolution if you notice it. If you don't, it's kind of like, oh man, that attack looks kind of crazy.
He's getting better as he fights. Yeah. Okay, so here's my confusion. Man, Toto must have kicked the crap out of those other two.
Oh yeah, again, glass cannon.
For 3 pages, bro. 3 pages, and he's back, and I'm like, wow, okay, Toto's a beast. But I mean, 99% chance to live through this, right? So, I'm not gonna lie. I want to be mind blown by this next chapter because I don't understand how 0.2 seconds of a domain expansion is going to mean anything.
Well, you know where you learned that from, right? Watching Gojo.
Wasn't it Sukunan the last time when...
No, it was Gojo, remember? He had to, do it in 0.2 again because there was multiple people there, regular people. And if you did it where regular people were...
Oh, you're right. Yeah, when Gojo was downstairs, you're absolutely right.
That's why he said, the one who taught me that, obviously.
Yeah, sorry, you're right. My bad.
Yeah,
my bad.
That's
what. Thinking because Sukuna was still there, that maybe he thought of it from him. Okay, yeah, that's crazy. Okay, but it makes sense with Gojo's domain expansion.
Yeah.
Because it's too much for humans to process and stuff like that. But I don't understand what good it's going to be here unless his domain expansion is slightly altered. Because if you think back to when he trapped Nanami the first time, it was basically just a sphere where he could just manipulate his body in any way, shape, or form within the sphere. He could be 17 million hands, or he could, all that type of stuff. But if you've only got 0.2 seconds and you're just expanding like that, I don't understand at least how they're not going to kind of get out of this. I was a little confused in the intimidation
he's always evolving. I mean, that's one thing we noticed. Now he could do it in 0.2, so it's kind of before it was different. And it's kind of funny, I noticed that his hands do the sign on it. If you look at his tongue in the last page.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He actually never does a domain expansion with his hands. It's always with his tongue. He's never done it with his hands.
Well, he does it with his hands because his tongue becomes hands, but yeah, it's kind of...
Okay, sorry. With what as a human would be classified specified his hands.
Yeah.
He does not use his hands.
I'm still gonna call it. I think total his arm's gonna get cut off. One of his hands is gonna get cut off. I think that's gonna, cause that's crazy. It's gonna be in. Oh man. It's gonna be pretty insane. I mean, I really like this chapter. Super action packed. It was like high octane. Like I'm like.
It was crazy.
Yeah, it really was.
Non-stop. There's such little dialogue in this chapter. It's actually mind blowing. Actually, there's a little bit more than I thought. Anyways, the thought that I want to just put out into the world, I guess, before next week's chapter is I think this fight is finally going to be where Itadori taps into just a teensy little bit of Sukuna's power, because I didn't remember this actually until I was watching the anime with my girlfriend the other day. We were doing the episode. Oh, actually, I guess it was this week's episode where Gojo is explaining how cursed energy and stuff work to Itadori.
Yeah.
And he says, and he doesn't say this, but he thinks it to himself, like Sukuna's techniques will become yours.
Oh, right, to his body.
Imprinted in your body.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Sukuna go off, right? Like he just went off a few chapters back.
Yeah, because I remember Yuji was like, when he was in the anime, he was complaining, like, he was like, man, I wish I could do like a Kamehameha and stuff like that.
Yeah, or a Sengun.
Yeah.
It was like all the shonen tropes, exactly.
Yeah.
So my theory for this fight is the counter to this is going to be Yuji tapping into like just a teensy bit of Sukuna. That's
gonna be. It's not, I don't think so either. But that's gonna be kind of a. It's gonna be fun to like watch and like see how that's gonna, because he's Itadori is a brawler, right? And like the other guy, he's basically like a slasher. So it's cool how that's gonna come out. Like if he punches someone, it's like slash is gonna come out. So.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I hadn't even been thinking about that.
Yeah.
Because like Sukuna doesn't even have to move, right? He just kind of throws cursed energy out there and it cuts. So
yeah.
I'm wondering, because he has two. What's the other one? It's something to do with like obliterating or something like that.
I thought
like cutting and the other's like.
I thought the second one. I mean, I might be wrong. I thought the other one was like copying, because he had the similar one for the flame curse dude, or the mountain curse.
We'll have to go. We'll go back and we'll double check that, because I forget specifically what both of his powers are. But
yeah, because I remember, because he has two. I was like, oh, and then like that was kind of interesting.
So just throwing that out into the world. I think we're gonna see a little bit of.
That's not a bad theory, because like, yeah, you're right. Gojo did say that. I mean, he wouldn't say that without a reason, or like you wouldn't write something like that without a reason.
Yeah, if you didn't plan to bring it full circle.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we're gonna see come to fruition.
Because the patchwork guy, I mean, he's worried if Sukuna comes out. Because remember what he said before, like if you ever use that again near me,
I'll kill you. Yeah, exactly.
So that's gonna be but I mean, overall review of this, like, awesome action packed chapter, and like I'm excited what's coming. I mean, obviously probably gonna be more action.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have something crazy. I think we'll get a bit of a cut to something else next chapter, just for a few pages, because I don't know. I just feel there has to be, because the last two were like completely focused on this.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna get a little bit of a cut.
I mean, I could already see like it's always like the last page of the chapter. Like, man, I could see it. The last page of the chapter, somebody's gonna get not killed, but man, it's gonna be blood everywhere. And the hand is.
I feel you.
Yeah, someone's hand is gonna get cut off. Saying, but overall, great chapter. I'm excited for that one. So, what's next you wanna review?
Let's do Kaiju.
Okay.
Because Kaiju is a little bit more fresh for me, in terms of a memory perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Kaiju number 8. We're on chapter 16 now. So as we kind of talked about, I guess in our chapter 15 review, I'm loving this series too. The art's just super clean. The action's been really good. As I mentioned, it's kind of got a lot for everybody. We saw a lot of shooting in this particular chapter, so you kind of get to have that for the guys who like that, or the viewers rather that like that. Dude, I think this is going to be a crazy series. I hope this trucks along, because the way the build-up's kind of going with the powers of these types of things, it's getting interesting.
Especially with the kaiju that they're facing right now, like shoot at you with
Like,
these
yeah, his abilities, right?
invisible
Like, what
bullets.
are they?
Yeah, like, they look like invisible like bullets. Well, not. They're like I assume they're probably like super fast air blast, bullets, something like that. It's because it's like a
Yeah, like Deku's finger flick thing,
yeah.
his Delaware shots or whatever. Yeah, I feel you.
So like it's definitely something similar like that. It's just obviously for a human to like, man, this thing is like hard, like tough. I got different rounds and stuff like that. It's yeah, but continue. What we were gonna say.
Honestly, sorry, I was looking through the chapter, so I kind of lost out on that. I was just thinking more. I agree with what you're saying, though, that these things are hard for humans to fight. So just I guess to make a bit of an analogy and compare it, whenever I was reading The Promised Neverland, I was always very conflicted because you have these 12-year-old, 14-year-old kids who are fighting these creatures that they had like no right to be, arguably.
Well, like
if you look at it from a strictly like physical standpoint.
Well, that's the point. They don't use their physical like.
No, they use. I know,
yeah.
but that's why I'm coming back to this, where it goes to show you that even though Reno has this suit that makes him way more powerful and way more faster, way more adept than any human ever, he still sits there and he's like, I don't stand a chance against this thing. And the first thing he does is in that last panel on page 1, he yells. He's just like, he's trying to get himself pumped up because he thinks he's going to die.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I felt that confrontation with morality and that acknowledgement was a little better here than in like Promised Neverland, for example. I always had a little bit of a disconnect between that, and I think here there's a really good job of hitting home on it and being like, hey, these things are insane.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like, these things are like just crazy strong, and even with the weapons you have, like the high tech stuff, it's especially the one that they're facing in particular that could talk, and his abilities are just. I guess he could expand his own skin. It's just weird.
It's crazy. Yeah, we don't even know, and that's
Yeah.
kind of the thing here too, right? Is we're only 16 chapters in. There's still a whole lot being explored within the world. We don't really know all of the kaiju classifications. We don't really know the extent of their abilities and their powers, because if you actually think about it, other than the first chapter and the little bit in the training thing, we don't actually really see the kaiju a lot in terms of their like combat abilities, because the one that goes to kill Reno in the first chapter gets blown away like One Punch Man style.
Yeah.
The other one gets blown away One Punch Man style. So we don't really truly know like the different types of abilities in creating these types of situations.
Even though that they're like basically monster-esque without a brain, it would seem, but you would assume those have a little bit of like kind of like, okay, they probably have tough exteriors, this and that. So.
Well, but I mean, this thing's got to have a brain.
Yeah.
It's talking.
Yeah.
Like it's basically a person, right? So I mean, that type of stuff hasn't been explored really yet, and I'm kind of interested to see where that's going to go. I like that. I guess 2 or 3 chapters ago now, we got that little bit of tidbit information about the different rounds and how different pieces of different kaiju were taken to create like different pieces of gear.
Mm-hmm.
That was really cool. So I like that world building, and we get to kind of, I guess, explore it more when we see these types of abilities that we weren't expecting on the I guess on the big bads, like the numbered kaiju, if you will. Because to be honest, I would assume this guy is one of the numbered kaiju. So. Oh.
I mean, I did like. How much I could definitely put money on it, man. Like, how much you want to bet this guy's just like a scout? Like, that's his like role.
I think so.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't even think he's a scout. I think he's kind of, I don't want to say less than that, but I don't even think he is that. I think he's probably kind of like almost, I don't want to say scientist, if you will, but like more maybe like a tester.
I mean, he's an infiltrator. He's infiltrating like.
Yeah. Well, that's very true. Okay, we'll go with that. We could go infiltrator/sabotage, I guess, because you see him a couple chapters ago, and he's examining, and he's like, "Oh, like you found out earlier than I meant. That freaking sucks, right?"
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting as well, because we don't even know in terms of the power scale, like where does a guy like this stand?
Yeah, that's true. And like as of right now, where he stands, what we see is like, ooh man, he's still against like 2. I mean, and even though that they're newbies, it's still like, because we see them fight like the other bigger kaijus, it's still tough, but like I don't want to say it's manageable, but it's still like because there's monsters coming at you.
Well, in comparison,
Yeah.
it is manageable, right?
Yeah.
And you're definitely right because both of these guys are on the cusp of that 20%, right? Because that's the thing is most people don't even hit that breakthrough, right? And we see both of these guys. We see Reno and Haru kind of coming together right now to try and break that. The thing that actually threw me off the most, I think, talking to I guess the whole power dynamic and figuring out power levels in this series, was when Reno's aiming the gun on page 4, and basically the thing's right next to him, and he's just like crouched on the thing. That's such a classic like anime trope now. I feel where when you're fighting like a way more powerful character, they just kind of sit there next to you and look at you like you're jack shit.
Yeah, where he could just lob your head off.
Yeah, like there's he's toying with you. That's literally what's going on right now. And then you flip to the next page and he's like, I bet you didn't know about this. And then he just completely changes the attack and the game plan. And it's mind blowing, man, because we just had, like there's so much still that hasn't been touched on this series that in terms of I guess the power levels and the craziness, I think we're just going to kind of see continued escalation.
Oh, it's gonna be it's a wild series. It definitely feels I mean, to those like very similar to like Attack on Titans. Like, man, how are humans gonna take on Titans? Or like Promised Neverland. Like, man, how are 12-year-olds gonna take on demon monsters? Or even like a Demon Slayer. Like, how are 13?
Yeah, how is this 14-year-old kid gonna kill these things? Yeah, oh, it's true.
And you cheer them on, and you obviously cheer for them because like they have the tools, but like they need to like even with the tools they need to overcome it with like more stuff like either veracity, intelligence, all that other stuff. It's just it's cool, and like I like the shonen-esque of like or I guess the battle manga esque of like, okay, there's different rounds, and I'm pretty sure there's gonna be like other abilities that we might see with the different like guns, who to say, and also against the monsters. I mean, just one that we're facing right now is just like air bullets, and yeah, so.
Yeah, and I mean, and Kafka can like punch things into oblivion, right?
Yeah.
So, no, who knows what the other ones are gonna. Well, I guess for him, it's not even the air bullets, right? It's like I think it's kind of a fungusy thing because when you look at when you're on 17 and 18, or wow, yeah, this is 21 pages. That's crazy. So yeah, sorry, when you're on 17 and 18 and Reno and Haru pull off their joint attack and Reno just blows out all of his possible strength on this guy with these freeze rounds, he's already expanded, and then he just pops open from his little like fungus hideout, and he's just like, you're flat out of options now, huh? And you're like, oh.
No, I do agree that he probably is like a fungus or like a mushroom because the way his head is, but like it could be also like no, but the way he's shooting his attacks are like. It could be like spores coming out super fast, like in the air. Like
there we go. That would make sense.
Yeah, like that we just can't see. Like that's how fast they are. So it's definitely it's another awesome action chapter. Couldn't even think of the word. It's definitely an awesome like battle. So I don't know what's gonna happen next. Like it's gonna be. I mean, someone's gonna come to the rescue, but.
Well, I was gonna say. Kafka's obviously got to make it over, and I think what's her face? I feel like it's Moriyama.
Yeah.
They're obviously gonna have to work together. I don't really know how this is gonna go down because their squad leader's keeping an eye on Kafka, but he needs to be able to get over there. So like, how are Moriyama and Kafka gonna work together to make this work? I don't know, to be honest, and that's gonna kind of be the interesting dynamic.
Yeah, so.
Hold on, sorry, I just caught something. Do these things regen? So go to page 21 or like 20 and 20.
Yeah.
So it's when Kafka first finds out, and look. Yeah. He's staring back. So are these things regenning?
Probably these that they fought. We don't know yet. Again, we don't know the abilities to a lot of these like kaiju creatures. I mean, Kafka knows like because he worked in that cleanup department, and we're like where to hit and where's the brain or the heart. I guess some has 3, some has like 1 or something like that. But again, each one is kind of different. So and then there's like the acid, right? And whatever, they have to be careful. So Yeah, I mean,
I
maybe.
forgot
I
about
mean,
that.
these.
Yeah, sorry. And then I just realized that last panel is actually what? I swear I just saw a corpse move. I didn't catch that. So yeah, I don't know where that's gonna lead either. That'll be interesting too.
Yeah, I mean, or maybe he could like. I mean, another theory. Maybe the flat top could like quickly like teleport, not teleport, but like maneuver over there because there's like junk.
Oh, you think maybe they're like a part of him or something, and
Could
it's
be
like the
that.
matter, and he can be where like wherever the matter is? I have no
Yeah,
idea.
it could be that.
We'll have to see.
I mean,
I guess next week's episode is gonna, or chapter rather, is gonna be Kafka and Moriyama to the rescue. That's what it kind of looks like right now.
Yeah, for sure. But a pretty good chapter. I definitely like it. I'm really excited for the next one. Like, oh man, this is like ramping up. So, yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, I want to see this series gain traction and continue along because it's really unique. Well, it's not really unique. That sounds super corny, but it's fitting into the shonen themes, I guess, at the moment, which appear a little bit more monster based rather than like humans versus humans kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it does it with a nice comedic style as well. I'd almost say, to be honest, actually, that this reminds me of a more mature World Trigger.
Yeah, I definitely see.
It's more dark and like there's more room for people to actually die, but it's got that comedic lightness to it and the types of relationships that you like to focus on and pay attention to. So I just want to continue to see this series get a lot of praise and a lot of support. I truly think it deserves it from a quality standpoint, So
Yeah.
I hope people continue to read and continue to enjoy, and I know we definitely. So.
For sure. And on to the next chapter, Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, so...
Chapter 92, Zombie Blood Chainsaw.
I'm not gonna lie, this chapter, I guess, kind of threw me for a loop. I wasn't expecting to see these two reconvene so quickly, because...
She was playing Dance Dance Revolution, like, for her life, last time we saw her.
Pretty much. Well, not even for her life, really, but yeah, like, I guess, right? Like, she was sitting there crying, and she's like, I did it!
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, her story's, I guess, been kind of interesting, because from what you've told me, I'm still finishing my first read-through. So she joined the devil agency, the devil hunter agency to make money, but then she's kind of useless and can't do anything, so she quits. And then you don't see her till you see her working at that random, like, we'll call it McDonald's, I guess.
Yeah.
She's working at the McDonald's, and then Denji comes in the form of Chainsaw Man and proceeds to, do what Chainsaw Man does.
Yeah, and they go on a date and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, but I wouldn't even call that a real date.
Of course not, but it was a date to Chainsaw Man.
I guess anything in Chainsaw Man can be quantified as just about anything, to be honest.
Because that's what Denji wanted, he wanted to date a girl, and he hasn't done that. So the monster kind of like did it, I guess. It was so weird, but this girl, we see her. She was previously the devil hunters. She was part of it, and she was like, I'm done. Like she can't, because the first time we actually meet her, she acted the same way, where she was like stressing, and I understand, because like it's kind of scary, because these guys are treated like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't want to call them like, not garbage people, because they're still like members.
They are though, bro.
Like,
I was just rereading. I just got to chapter, I don't know, 6 or something, 8. I don't even know. And dude, these people are treated like garbage. Man.
I don't want to say garbage, but it's more like it's a job, so to speak. It's like
I think it's even less than that, bro. Like, from the way that Makima talks to Denji and the people around her, man. To be honest, I'm surprised nobody thought she was the villain right away.
That's because she has that, she was hot, I guess. I don't know, man. It was weird.
Well, I guess. I don't guess. I don't think that about that. But
yeah, but I know what you mean. I know.
She comes into the story. I definitely understand the way she acts. I'm like, yo, this bitch is clearly evil. I'm like, I swear. I hope all of you readers caught on to that so quickly.
The way she treats them. I mean, well, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, we caught it on. Like, we're like, well, something's up. Like, she's very strange. Well, everyone's strange in this world. I mean, even including Denji himself. Like, when Makima met Denji, like, well, you're like not my new dog. You're my leash. And as you can see, she has a control devil, if you remember. And also, when we first go to her apartment, she has like 7 dogs. So like, it's a theme of control right? So, but going back to this chapter, yeah, I was happy to see her, and she's still alive, and I hope she stays alive. And I actually pretty, yeah, she has mentioned her family before. Again, when you reread the chapters, she mentioned her family before. Like she has a big family. She's, again, she worked
But
there.
she hates them, apparently.
Yeah, some of them are like kind of like we don't meet them or nothing like that, but she does like I don't want to say
Comment on their
yeah, it's hard.
Their lack of niceness.
It's hard for her. It's hard for her because she's doing everything for her family and stuff like that. So I think she has a lot of siblings too, because she mentioned it, and she has it rough. She has it rough a couple times. So it's kind of it's weird because I don't want to say she talks shit about her family, but like I don't want to say she does, but like when she talks about them, like I gotta do this and that. It's kind of like it's grueling for her. So like when she's like is my family gonna never see me again, or are they gonna be okay? Like I think she's happy that she's gonna not that she's gonna separate them, but like she's family's still family, right? She's happy that they'll be safe enough, like they don't need to deal with what she's going on with Makima, attacking Chainsaw and Denji and stuff like that. So, but this chapter was definitely interesting, where Genji, more realization, after power kind of
Well, that's what I was gonna say. He gets a real good slap in the face, which I kind of appreciated that, because again, just it's weird because I jumped in on this series late and then I'm going back and rereading it, so obviously like my perspective on everything is
fresh.
It's almost biased in a weird way because I already know what's going to happen, so I can make connections and be like, oh, I can see that. And that's kind of, I guess, one of the cool things about going back and getting to reread it without having any knowledge except for the knowledge that I have currently. Is this is literally true, where Denji calls himself out. He's like, I've never made decisions for myself. I've never been in charge of myself. And that's so true, because when you go back and you look at how the series starts, he's working for that guy, the guy betrays him, Pochita dies, he becomes a Chainsaw Man, and then he just goes right into working for Makima. And then that goes on till now.
He gets treated like a dog, yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because now it's literally taken the complete collapse of his entire life to realize, like, oh, I have to kind of take responsibility. I have to do something about it.
Well, before, again, when you read through it, like, he has felt like, man, depression. But now, for now, is like I mean, my overall thoughts of this chapter, I hope Denji makes it out alive. I hope Denji makes it out alive, deals what he has to do with the big bad.
I have no idea.
But
that's the thing that's throwing me off.
Hold on. I hope he makes it out alive, and I hope he finds something that he wants to do instead of like the basic necessities of like eating and stuff like that. Because I don't know if you remember the first few chapters of him. Like,
no, I do. He doesn't eat. He dies. He puts like a bunch of bread. Sorry, he puts a bunch of jams and marmalades on a piece of bread and just eats all of it because he's so excited. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what he said. Like the only choices he ever made was like what to eat for lunch. So I'm actually hoping he actually throughout the whole when the series is done, like, or before it's done, I should say, he makes it out alive and do what he wants to do. As selfish as that sounds, because he hasn't done anything for himself. He's either for the mafia because of his father's debt, or he's for Makima, or like now and a whole nother thing. And we might see. And honestly, going further throughout the chapter, you hear the news report with Chainsaw Man, like the hero and stuff like that. Like he looks surprised, zooming past towards the end. He looks surprised when he sees all Chainsaw Man cheering for him. Obviously we can't tell until the next chapter. But like, is he just gonna be like, I don't want that?
How is he reacting to that?
Yeah, exactly. Like, is he gonna be happy? Is he gonna be like, should I continue fighting?
Right?
Or like, because then that's another thing he needs to do. Now he needs to save everybody because everyone's cheering for him. He's not doing it for himself. He's doing it for you know what I mean? So
yeah, and well, that's kind of a big part of it, right? It's also it's interesting too. So going back to what you were saying, you want to see Denji like go to be his own person basically by the time this kind of comes to a close. I don't really know if that's going to happen, and the part of me that says that is I feel like there's a bit of a foreshadow on page 11 when he sits there and he's like, even if I make it out of this alive, I bet I'll always be living in obedience to somebody like a dog. What makes that kind of interesting is, when he had Pochita, he was kind of like subservient, right? Because the contract was made with Pochita, but he was like, oh, if I die, you die, so you better keep me alive. So he was counting on him to keep him alive.
Yeah.
And then they made the actual contract where he becomes Chainsaw Man, right? And it's like then he's living under technically Pochita because he's like, I want to see your dreams. And then he goes to living under Makima. So now there's almost like this shift to he's living under the public.
Yeah, exactly.
They're starting to love him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's really interesting. I don't kind of think he's gonna get out on top, and I think to be honest, that seems to be a bit of a recurring, from what I'm seeing, there seems to be this idea of a recurring theme of, you don't win, you just do a little better each time.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of seems to be the theme, because if you look at Denji's debt stems from his father, right? And that's the whole reason Denji gets screwed over. So there's always this idea of you can't win, you can't beat the system, but occasionally you get pushes forward, and there's always like these consequences, right? Which seems to be a big freaking theme in all of these series right now. So what are the consequences of being a public hero?
Yeah.
We have no clue.
Yeah, especially in that world. And it's funny that you mentioned when his dog, he wants to see his dreams and stuff like that. She mentions it also, where like there's no such thing as being.
Oh yeah.
Except in your dreams. And then like that next panel, like I honestly really like love, just because it's just simple. They're both kneeling down, and I think he has like a burrito or something like that. But he like looks at like shocked, like oh, like it's not like how did you know, but like it's more of a realization, like that's right, you know what I mean? So and
yeah, because he's like, oh, I wanted to. Yeah, it's like there's no going. It's interesting, and I'm probably stretching a little bit here, but it's also kind of, I guess, just a bigger commentary on life to an extent.
Oh man.
Where he's like, he's like, oh, but I wanted to be normal again, or I wanted to, or he wanted to have something that's unattainable. He basically wants to be normal would mean to erase his past, essentially, right?
Yeah. Because
then he wouldn't have made the contract, he wouldn't have done yada yada yada. So there's just kind of this thread going on. Again, you have to live with these consequences. You have to live with these regrets, and that's kind of I feel the epiphany that Denji's having right here, is because the next thing is he's like, but I wanted to be normal, and it's like he's having this realization that, oh shit, all of that did happen, and it's kind of funny because I think part of that realization is tied into what we've been talking about already, which is, oh, I've been a dog. Oh, I've never been normal because I have been a dog. Oh, I screwed up by being a dog and just being obedient, and I created all these issues.
Yeah.
And I can't go back to being normal because I let all of those things happen.
And it's kind of interesting when he says that he wants to be normal. Like what she says, like after like a small pause, she says, "You want to be normal, Denji?" ? So it's like, that was also like I don't know if it's weird. Like I don't know what the meaning behind. I can't really think of the top.
Yeah, it's very ambiguous, right? Mm-hmm. Like I know what you mean, and what made it kind of interesting for me as well was because it's that frame, and it's like, you want to be normal, Denji? ? And then it's him, and he's like, and it's kind of like, do I? And then it's and then the next thing is just Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, and then you notice it's from and then you notice it's from like the TV screen, because I was like, oh, is that from like the inside of his like mind? Or like, oh no, that's television. Yeah, it was definitely like that was a pretty cool transition. I think I really like that transition on like Chainsaw Man, because like when I saw the word, I'm like, does that come from inside? Like, oh no, that's just TV. So
well, yeah, it is, but I think
it was probably intentionally, like, because
hell yeah, there's definitely like some intention there to contrast.
Because there's like a black, it's just a black panel and then the word
with the name, right? Yeah. And it's kind of interesting because. In a weird way, it's almost like an identity loss, just like in the way my brain's processing this right now, because it's like you want to be normal Denji, question mark, and then you got his full face in that panel, and then you cut to the next panel, and it's half of his face, and then the next panel is just black. There's no Denji identity, and then it's just Chainsaw Man. So,
like, is
like
even Denji?
Is
even Denji anymore?
Chainsaw Man is Chainsaw Man. Like,
Yeah.
oh man, I don't know. There's just like, there's definitely some literary crap going on there in terms of what the author's trying to, like, I guess, create in terms of in the readers' minds. But yeah, man, this again, Chainsaw Man is a series that on a chapter to chapter basis, you're bound to do 180s every other chapter.
Oh,
so,
agreed. Like next
you know,
one,
he could
I don't
smile
know.
At the beginning of
Yeah.
this next one, or he's gonna be crying his eyes out, or
Yeah,
angry
or
or
he
something.
could just be like, "I'm running away." Like,
Yeah, right?
yeah,
Like, exactly.
yeah, like we have
way
no.
to predict this.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's the thing I really enjoy because I'm like, it's just so it's so contrast to like the previous one. I'm like, whoa, like that is a hard term, but you also believe it because I'm like, yeah, they would do that. So,
Yeah.
you know, like
You know what? Maybe the way to describe this series, and I feel weird using this term, is this series is almost human.
no, that's actually really accurate because like the way he writes like his characters are just very, I don't want to say real, but
But they're regular.
Yeah.
They're not like,
Yeah.
because, like, you know, shonen characters are very, you know, sorry, Deku, because you're a great main character, and I do love my, but he's like, you know, oh, I need to save everybody, and I need to be the best of the best of the best of the best, and that's kind of like, you know, Naruto, I need to be the Hokage, and I need to save everybody, and, you know, they're,
and obviously they have their layers and everything. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's
yeah,
not your
they're
they're
layers, but
your their typical hero shonen where Denji's like,
yeah, Denji's this whack job who's not really, to be honest, he's not really a hero. He's like, if you kind of really break it down, he's done heroic things, but I
Yeah.
don't think he's truly a hero.
yeah, it's definitely
Sorry, it's just amazing how real that is. Where
Yeah.
it's like you have these flaws, you have these pasts, you know. Again, if we look at you know, many of the other, I guess, writing stereotypes to an extent that take place is there are usually characters that are able to, you know, sorry, because I do love Avatar as well, but let's throw Zuko in here. You know, Zuko commits all of these travesties and then he tries to atone, and there's a lot of that, but there's not so much as this true acceptance and realization of, oh, I actually have to deal with all of that. It tends to get brushed under the rug, and I like that this isn't really the case in Chainsaw Man.
oh, most definitely. It's definitely a different manga that's on again. His previous work, Fire Punch. Oh man, it's like, it's. I mean, thank God that wasn't on Shonen Jump or Weekly. Maybe it was on Weekly Shonen Jump, maybe in Japan and stuff like that. But I read that story, and that's probably a more stranger, and also the way the characters talk is. I mean, actually, they're way stranger than the people here in Chainsaw Man. It's super wild, but yeah, man. I mean, it's a pretty good. I like the chapter. It was like it was calm, but like realization, but also I don't know where it's going.
To be honest, it was a really necessary chapter
Oh, for
after
sure.
Denji's revival, because, you know, if we're being really honest, the last 6 weeks of Chainsaw Man have kind of been a mess, just from you know, okay, what's going on? Wait, is he dead? Is he not dead? He just kicked his own heart from space back down onto the planet. Like, you know, there's been so much craziness going on.
The whole Burger Town thing, singing their song.
Yeah.
I honestly, that was my favorite chapter. Just like like you gotta sing it, tomato, be like, what is this?
And she's like,
Like
tripping over herself.
the
Oh my
the
God.
tone of this manga is very strange, but I think that speaks to like even the title itself. So, but yeah, man.
Sorry, I was also just looking at the double page color cover spread. There's something kind of interesting about this to me, because Power and what I can only assume is the friend that died from the Gundam.
Yeah, it's Aoki. I can never pronounce his name, but yeah, it's
Aoki, it's
yeah.
AOKI or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's interesting to me that they're kind of like in the light and like out in the open, but he's kind of still like
in the dark, in the
shadow,
shadow,
in the dark kind of
or
thing.
in the shadow.
Yeah, and like if you look at power, like maybe part of it's kind of metaphorical because they both died and they're moving on, right? Like she's even going peace.
Yeah.
And
That's a good. That's
because it's like they're leaving this shit world behind, but Denji's still kind of stuck in it.
That's a good. That's a very good insight.
Look at his face, right? He's kind of miserable.
Yeah.
But they almost look happy to be dead. It's really weird.
And it's funny because we've seen similar interiors, or I guess exteriors, like where he's at, like the hallways. We've seen similar like that to like the door, even just running from the first page where you see people walking and stuff like that, and that door, and then it zooms into the door, and like a door in this manga seems to be very significant. You know what I mean?
It is.
Oh,
yeah,
I mean,
just
from like either his past or like, heck, even the like doors to hell. Like to get to hell, there's like the ceiling, or I guess the sky is just multiple doors from Monsters Inc. You know what I mean? Like that's how it is.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. True. Okay.
Yeah. So it is very much the theme there when it comes to that. And it's like undergroundy, I guess, because I don't know, maybe the theme of hell or something like that. But yeah, that's a good sight, man. I didn't even notice that, bro. That's pretty good. Like holy shit. Like
yeah, sorry. Just that was just some last thoughts because I was just browsing back through the pages.
Yeah, that was good.
I was like, that kind of stands out to me. So yeah, with that in mind, I think we're done for this week. I don't think there's anything more we need to touch on.
Nope.
We'll be back next week for the same chapters
And if you guys want us to, if you guys want us to read something or catch up, catch up to something.
We'll take suggestions.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm thinking what we should maybe take on as a series in the future is I want to check out Golden Kamui.
Yeah. Because I know there's the anime is out too.
Is it? Okay, well let's maybe look at diving into that and seeing what's up. I get some JoJo vibes from the main character, so that's definitely a good thing.
And it looks like a period piece too.
Maybe try and get some monthly series in here. We'll continue to keep getting it, figuring it out. We'll adjust until we get there.
For sure. And thank you for listening. Share, subscribe, like, or dislike. It's up to you, really. But thank you again, and you guys have a wonderful day.